It's 7:01, and I'm going to call the December meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals to order. And I guess before we start, I'm going to have Mr. Sear read the, do the roll call, please, of the regular members and the alternates.
All right. Kerry Callahan?
Here.
John Carrier? Ron,
Not here.
Ron Llewellyn? Sarah
Not here.
Nadeem?
Here.
Rob Phillips?
I'm here.
John Schoenhorn?
Here.
John Brockelman?
Here.
Harry Marsh?
Here.
And Steve Walsh.
Here.
All right.
Right. I'm going to appoint Commissioner Brockelman, alternate Commissioner Brockelman for Mr. Llewellyn, and I'm going to appoint Commissioner Marsh for Mr. Carrier. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, right. Okay. So I'm going to ask that Commissioner Callahan read the official notice from the record, please.
Notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals will hold an online public hearing on Monday, December 13. That may be Ron Llewellyn.
It is.
All right, well, then we'll just read the notice, and before we begin the public hearing, I'll note that for the record, so.
But don't we want to unappoint one of the alternates as well? But we can deal with
But
that.
we haven't started the public hearing yet, so so just read the public notice before we go to the hearing. I will make that change, but just
Okay,
finish
sounds
the notice, please.
Okay. Notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals will hold an online public hearing on Monday, December 13, 2021 at 7 p.m. on the following application. Town of Farmington application for variance to maximum height from 35 feet to 47 feet for new high school building at 10 Monteith Drive, R40 zone. Interested parties are encouraged to participate in this online public hearing. The link to this meeting may be found on the Town of Farmington's website at www.farmington-ct.org/about-farmington/calendar-meetings. A copy of this proposal is available online at www.farmington-ct.org/government/zoning board of appeals, or by calling the planning department at Farmington Town Hall at 860-675-2325. Dated at Farmington, Connecticut, November 24, 2021. Farmington Zoning Board of Appeals, John Schoenhorn, Chair.
All right, I noticed that during the reading of the notice that Commissioner Llewellyn did join, and I just want to make sure, can you hear us, Ron? Are you able to participate?
Yeah, I just had a little trouble with my computer. I'm good, and I've read the notice.
Okay, so I think I had appointed alternate Commissioner Brockelman to vote in your stead, so I'm going to have to uninvite you, Commissioner Brockelman. I'm sorry, but Commissioner Llewellyn is here. He will be participating in this matter. The way we work the way our bylaws work is the applicant presents first, and then those that wish to speak in favor or want to just make comment on the application will go after that. And anyone who's opposed to the plan will then speak. And then finally, the applicant can respond if he or she so desires. I see there are a lot of people on. I don't know if everyone is going to speak, but I will note that I did receive today from staff a letter from a Marcus Fairbrother, Fairbrother, of 12 Candlewood Lane in Farmington in support of the application. I just want to make sure, Mr. Sear, that is part of the application. It's part of the hearing materials, and I want to make sure that everyone on the commission had a chance to be aware of that letter.
Yes, that is. And since that time, we had two come in very late this afternoon that I have in included here as well. So I didn't
Okay,
want-
well,
I
we'll deal
didn't-
with those in a minute, but let's,
Okay.
was sent earlier in the day. I just want to make sure it was part of the process, part of the application
Yes,
file.
yes, it is.
Okay, so who will be presenting the application for variance from the town?
Mr. Chairman, it's Ken Slater of Halloran and Sage, and I would begin the presentation.
Okay, very good. And I'm just going to ask you to state your name and your address for the record. And, well, I know who you represent, but I ask you to indicate for the record who you represent, and then we'll proceed from there, please.
Of course, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, my name is Ken Slater. I'm a partner of the firm of Halloran and Sage, which is 125 Asylum Avenue in Hartford, and I represent the town, acting through the town manager, Kathy Blonsky. What you'll hear tonight is, well, what you know already is that a high school, particularly the Farmington High School, is a vital element of your community. No, I can't imagine anyone would argue with that. I don't think anyone would also argue with the fact that when you have an existing non-conforming use, that is this high school in a residential zone, that the school has the ability to continue to operate. And modern high schools, I'm sure there may be an exception in the 169 towns, but I'm not aware of any public high school that hasn't been able to modernize and is certainly a different building than it was 50 years ago, 75 years ago, 100 years ago. So it's essential that the town have the ability to modernize its high school. And what you as the Zoning Board of Appeals are charged with is as you know, as evaluating whether or not there's a legitimate hardship basis to provide for a variance. A variance is, what you're going to hear is that a modern school that provides a safe learning environment, and safety is going to be an important part of what you'll hear, because the sprawling campus that exists right now has many, many entrances, and a school being constructed to comply with the ADA and with modern safety requirements requires multi-floors rather than a long sprawling building like or campus that exists today. So you'll hear a lot of hard work that's gone in with both the consultants and community citizens of the building committee and the school board in coming up with what is an appropriate modernization of the school. And in order to do that, you'll need a variance. Variance will be required if it's going to be located anywhere in the town of Farmington. It's an 12, we'll say a 12-foot variance. It's 11 foot 8 inches, I believe. But it is above the 35-foot height requirement, which is the height requirement in most of the zones. But the highest, the tallest a building can be anywhere in Farmington is 40 feet. So when you hear the information that's going to be presented to you tonight, and you see that the non-conforming existing high school could not be modernized into an appropriate structure without some kind of a height variance, it's unique to this property. It is the only high school, obviously public high school in town, and it is needs to be able to adapt, and there really is no other way to make it work other than to provide this kind of structure. So with that, and I'll sum up at the end of our presentation, but I'll turn the floor over to Richard Sipic of PSKP Studio, who's present the plans, and we want you to see the plans themselves, but what is most important, I think, is to hear after Richard's presentation all of the thought and all of the information that went into determining that this is really the only way that it can work is with this a multi-floor structure, and with that you need to have some kind of a variance from height anywhere in the town. And with that, I turn it over to Richard.
Thank you very much. And my name is Richard Sipic. I'm an architect registered in the state of Connecticut. I'm a partner with a firm called PSKP Studio. My office is located in Hartford, Connecticut. We were retained by the town of Farmington to plan the modernization of the Farmington High School. With me this evening is a colleague, also an architect registered in the state of Connecticut, His name is Michael Scott. He's on this panel as well. I may refer to him if I need to answer specific questions a little bit later after the panel has finished its presentation and the board can then ask its questions. So on the screen before you, hopefully you can see drawings that we submitted to the board for its consideration. This is just the cover sheet. If we go to the next page, please. You'll see this site plan. This site plan is illustrating the proposed site as it would be improved. That the cursor is now showing you the location of the new high school. But just to orient you and members of the public who are listening, on the right, you can see Route 4, and then you can see the entrance to the site, Monteith Drive. This is the only entrance into the site. And so our plan is generated based upon a number of factors, including the location of the existing drive onto this site. There are a couple of landmarks I would like to point out for you. There's the library right there. And then there are two elements of the existing high school that will be kept in place. One of which is the 1928 building located right there. And then there's something we call the 900 wing. The 900 wing is the last addition that was built to the high school. And we determined that that wing is usable. It's going to be about 20 years old when this building is finished, and that portion of the existing building, the 900 wing, will become the central offices for Farmington Public Schools.
Can I interrupt you for a second, please?
Yes,
there are
of course.
people from the public that are sending in chats. This is a remote meeting. I'm going to ask people to reserve comments until after the presentation. It is a little distracting while we're listening to this presentation to see bubbles popping up. So I'm going to ask maybe staff if they can mute or somehow stop the chats from appearing on the screen, please.
We can't. So, Mr. Schoenhorn, we cannot stop the chat. I just sent a response saying questions will be addressed after the applicant's presentation, and no questions will be addressed via the chat feature. That's the best I can
Right.
do.
So to the public, then I ask you please to just wait. You'll all get a chance to ask questions, but it is distracting if we can't at least listen to the presentation and look at the screen unimpeded. So thank you. Please continue, sir. I'm sorry.
Not at all. Thank you. So the area of the existing school is located between the 1928 building and the 900 wing in the general area that is shown by the cursor. And we have to maintain operations of the existing building while we undertake the project to construct and modernize the facility. Other features on the site that I would like to call your attention to are the existing football field. You can see the running track around the football field. And then there's just below that, the upper plateau of the site. Those are multi-purpose fields. And those fields are at a significant grade difference. Those are much higher on the site. So what is difficult to perceive on a plan such as this is the difference in topography between the plateau of the new building, the plateau of the multi-purpose fields on the upper level. We chose to place the new building in a location that least disruption of activities on the high school. In fact, the only thing we're going to disturb in constructing this building is the existing tennis courts, which are located just to the right, just to the south of the proposed new building footprint, and the ball field, which is located just to the left or to the north, roughly, right about just above where the football field is. There's a ball field there. So those will have to be relocated as we make way for the footprint of the new building. The entrance to the new building would be located on the southern side of the building, which is, yes, right there. The compass direction is south to the right. So the southern side will have one main entrance to the school. It's the same entrances that will be used by people who are arriving by school bus, There's a school bus drop-off area just to the right of the main entrance. And then there's also a parent drop-off area just to the left of the main entrance. That's also where visitors would park. And the reason we chose to have that entrance there, it's very visible, it is secure, and by keeping all of the people who are arriving at this footprint in one location is the safest strategy from a security standpoint. Why don't we go to the next sheet, which is an enlarged plan. You can see in this plan the topographic lines that represent the grading changes from one side of the site to another. We want to point out that the grade slightly rises from the main entrance at the right side as it moves across the site to the left. There's roughly a 2.5 foot rise. And so later on, when we'll show you the interior, you'll see that there's a difference in elevation from the front to the back of the building. Next slide, please. So this is an enlarged view of the footprint of the building. And this shows you the topographic difference between the front of the building, which is at elevation 245.5, and then on the left is 257. So that's roughly 2.5 feet from one side to the next. But it's pretty much level all the way around. And so that's an important point to point out. Next slide, please. This is the site plan, the survey that was done. And this is a much clearer picture of where the footprint is of the existing building. Down below, if we could scroll down a little bit. Yes, thank you. So you can see the footprint of the existing building is right there. And then there's that ball field that I pointed out on the left. That has to be removed to make way for the new building. And then the tennis courts that also have to be removed. We will replace those tennis courts after the new building is built and after the existing building is demolished, except for the 900 wing and the 1928 building. We'll also replace the ball field in the landscaped area in the former footprint of the existing building. Next slide, please. So once you enter the building from the main entrance on the right, you can see that the building is divided from north to south in one straight line. That's the main entrance into the building. And on the right side of the entrance are all of the classroom clusters. That's the, nope, the other side, up above. Yes, thank you very much. I'm not controlling the cursor, by the way, so whoever is moving the cursor is doing an excellent job. That is a 3-story building. Next to it is another 3-story building just to the left. Those are the classroom clusters. Just beyond that is a 2-story portion, classroom clusters. And below that main entrance and atrium space are the main assembly spaces, the spaces such as the auditorium, and then there's also the gymnasium. Those are 1-story areas except for the admin and office areas. However, they are large volume areas, but essentially they're no more than 2 stories tall. Next is the second floor. Next sheet is the second floor. It has a similar footprint. You can be looking down into the auditorium and down into the gymnasium spaces, and then you can see the classroom configuration. I do want to point out why the classrooms are arranged the way they are. You can see that they're configured in a U shape. If you look at the classroom clusters, yes, like that classroom cluster, you see there's a U-shaped configuration of classrooms. And in the center of that cluster are resources such as the breakout area for collaborative learning, such as the restrooms. There's also some small meeting rooms as well as faculty offices. And that's the configuration of a modern high school today, because The arrangement of the existing building is pretty old-fashioned. It's single-loaded corridors and long lines of circulation throughout them. This is a very efficient, compact plan with clusters of classrooms circulating around a common collaborative space. In fact, we've been referring to these as learning communities with a population that is the appropriately sized population for it to feel like a community. If we continue to the last floor plan, which is the third floor, you can see the third floor configuration of the classrooms, similar to the spaces at the lower level. And then finally to the roof plan, next sheet. And we chose to color code this roof plan so that you better understand the various heights of this building. Not all of the building is at the 47-foot height. In fact, only about less than 24%, or about less than 25%, sorry, I should say, represents that. And so the pale blue area that you see, which is the roof area above the 3-story classrooms, that's at a 40-foot height. The highest part of the building is that even paler blue area, just to, nope, lower. No, sorry. Let's see, how do I describe this?
What's the number?
The number, very good. Area 12.
Right here. No, it's 13. I'm missing the 12.
There is a pale area called 12.
Oh, right here. Right here.
Yes,
There we go.
right there.
There we
Thank
go.
you. That area is a skylit area with some sawtooth skylight configuration. That area is 46 feet 8 inches high, and that's the highest part of the building right there. And it's not that great an area, as you can see. It represents less than 2% of the total footprint of the building. The other areas, such as the blue area to the left, that's area 7. That area is less than 35 feet tall. The area below, in sort of a medium blue, area 6, that's the roof area above the gymnasium. That's less than 30 feet tall. And then the area above the admin area, the similar blue area that wraps around the auditorium, that all of that is less than 30 feet high. So as you can see, the modification we are requesting, the variance we are requesting, is for limited areas of the building. And it's over the 3-story portions. I do want to point out why this configuration. These days, there are a number of factors that contributed to high school planning, one of which is creating these learning communities. This is in direct response to the educational requirements, and hopefully you'll hear a little bit more about that in our presentation by others. But those educational goals are what drives the floor plan. Secondly is compactness. The more compact we can make a building, the more energy efficient it is, and the less space it takes up on the site. And that's why we chose this very compact form. In fact, if you could look at this plan, you can see it's approximately a square. It has notches in it, as you can see, but it is as close to compact as we could make it. And the third reason is security. The more we can put above the first floor, the more secure it is. Unlike the existing footprint of the existing high school, which is all pretty much 1 story, except for the 1928 building and a couple of other areas, a lot of it is on the ground floor. Here, we're trying to create classroom spaces that are safer, so we're placing them in stacks above the first floor, as you saw in that plan. The last sheet I want to refer you to is the next page. And these are the elevations of the building from different vantage points. The upper elevation is the south elevation. And then moving down the screen, yeah, if you zoom out, I think actually it would be better. Moving down the screen, then below that is the west elevation. That's the elevation that faces the stadium and the 900 wing. Below that is the north elevation. That's the elevation that faces away the opposite side of the main entrance. And perhaps the most important is the one at the bottom. That's the east elevation. That's the one that it's the 3-story elevation. And I want to point out again that those sawtooth skylights right there. Yes, you can see there's a red line drawn right through the midpoint of those slopes. If you draw a line from that midpoint of those sawtooth skylights down to the ground floor, down to the grade around the building, that's the 46-foot 8-inch height. Our variance request is for 47 feet maximum height for this particular area. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to, I believe, Meg or Kathy Greeter. I'm not sure who's next on the agenda.
Thank you, Richard. I'm here on behalf of Kathy Greeter. So I'm Kim Nguyen. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Schools in Farmington, and I'm here to give a little more information about the design needs and requirements as they relate to our educational programming. Just to give a little background, in 2019, the Farmington Board of Education shared the major deficits of the current FHS facility with the town council and the community through a statement of need. The New England Association of Colleges and Schools placed Farmington High School on warning status due to several of the deficits which are outlined in that statement of need. And many of those deficits had a root cause, and that is something Richard spoke about, which is facility sprawl. We have issues with travel time between classes due to the design of the current facility and long, narrow hallways and overcrowded corridors. We have security challenges due to an excessive number of entrances and exits in a mostly 1-story facility. There's a lack of occupant comfort, and again, due to sprawl, that creates energy inefficiencies, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing system issues as well. We were cited for lack of adherence to American Disabilities Act requirements, and an undersized space that impacts academic scheduling, as well as an inadequate number of classrooms for the population of students we serve. So in summary, the facility was cited by NEASC as having a negative impact on the quality of education. And so as a result, the Farmington High School Building Committee engaged with professional partners in our community to begin the process of designing a new school that would address all elements of the statement of need. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what this design and a modern school really reflects in terms of educational programming. The Farmington Board of Education's visionary strategic goals, or what we call the Farmington Vision of the Global Citizen, leads the way in Connecticut and beyond in the way we think about curriculum and programming and instruction, and now the design of a new modern high school here in our community. We are a nationally recognized school district, and with the new FHS facility design, we will enhance an already exceptional high school education, ensuring that our students are leaders at the local and national global levels. In the second decade of the 21st century, we are preparing our high school students to enter a society and world of work that looks so different from what it looked like when our current high school was built and then renovated over several decades. We are preparing students to be citizens of the world, who are self-directed and resourceful, open-minded learners capable of working with diverse groups of people and engaged in active, collaborative, real-life work that demands high levels of critical and disciplined thinking and problem solving. To say it bluntly, our students just are no longer sitting passively listening to teachers give lectures and taking notes from the board and tests on Friday. The design of the new facility promotes flexibility for the future, as well as active real work learning and application. The design is responsive to the needs of our students and provides flexible and collaborative spaces for work that approximates what we all might see in modern day studios, labs, office spaces, and research facilities. Because our students are learning by doing and doing the kind of work that professionals do, while they also learn the building blocks of knowledge and skill most cited as those required for college and career and life in the future. This means that the vision for FHS includes flexible spaces designed to be used for large group presentations and small group seminars. 1 week, a class might be collaborating on a major project with a partner class, and the next week, students might be working individually on inquiry and independent research. Learning might include an interdisciplinary approach to cross-cutting concepts that help students apply knowledge to complex problems. And the multi-story academic wings of the new building are designed in clusters and learning communities to allow students to spill out into those common spaces, to open up classroom spaces to meet with students in companion classes, or work with tutors or visiting experts for additional support. Study groups and teacher tutorials can also use those breakout rooms in each of the academic learning communities. These clusters provide for greater efficiency in students moving from class to class through a daily schedule and thus increasing instructional time. This is a major improvement from the sprawling and maze-like design of our current facility. And we're very excited about all the opportunities. Students are also exhibiting their work and presenting their work. And in the design of this building, there will be many opportunities for students to be able to post their work on the walls of classrooms or hallways or display tables, and allow others to critique and offer feedback, which is an essential component of our learning model. They comment on and provide suggestions for improvement, much like working professionals do. Today's students are more involved in hands-on making and doing. They are creating and producing, again, more active than passive, and doing the real work of scientists, musicians, artists, engineers, builders, and designers. The new high school design gives us state-of-the-art spaces throughout the facility for this kind of exhibition of learning. The high school students learn best when they have that blend of independent and interdependent time for thinking and writing, reflection and reading and research. They need spaces for quiet work and collaborative spaces to meet with peers and teachers to talk about their work. We know that our students are more motivated when they can make connections between what they're learning in school and something they care about in the real world. So we want a building to be alive with representations of what students care about and how they are thinking about making an impact. We need space to exhibit and inspire and present work, and to engage with virtual and in-person experts and gather as small communities with a common goal or purpose. There are a lot of areas in the building for large group seminars and presentations and talks so that students can gather together with those visiting experts. And of course, above all, the environment for learning at FHS must feel inclusive and safe and respectful of all individuals. The new facility design reflects modern safety and security elements aligned to state requirements with fewer entrances and exits, multi-layered modern security mitigation practices, and classrooms and spaces with sight lines to anticipate potential issues that may arise. Our new facility will reflect a welcoming environment filled with light, open spaces, and exhibitions of student learning, allowing access for all and expressing a feeling of community and care, a place where all of our students can grow and discover their personal talents and interests. Physical barriers, crowded hallways, undersized spaces, and outdated heating and cooling systems impacts our current students' feeling of physical and emotional safety and comfort. A new multi-layered, well-lit and flexible design will not only address the deficits of the current building outlined in the statement of need, but will serve the Farmington community for decades and generations to come. Due to the new flexible design of the FHS facility, it will allow for any and all education or instructional advancements that might evolve in the future. So once again, the new building reflects and allows for the kinds of learning that prepares our students to become global citizens who are, as our vision of the global citizen states, disciplined thinkers, engaged collaborators, and contributors to our community and society. Again, the new FHS building design is the only way we will promote and advance these efforts for many generations to come. And with that, I will turn this over to Megan Guerrera, the chair of the Farmington High School Building Committee, to discuss the extensive community engagement process we engaged in.
Great, thank you so much, Kim. As mentioned, my name is Megan Guerrera. I am the chair of the FHS Building Committee. I am here this evening as a representative of that committee. We do have other building committee members joining us this evening.
Could you at least identify your address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Megan Guerrero, 1 Whispering Rod Road in Unionville. Thanks, John. So we do have other building committee members with us tonight, including Kat Krajewski and Beth Kittner. So you will see we have multiple members of our committee, but I'm here to speak on behalf of the committee this evening. So this comprehensive new high school design has been achieved through the collaborative efforts, time, and dedication of residents, elected officials, and staff from the town of Farmington and the Farmington Public Schools. The entire FHS Building Committee believes this is the only solution to address the Board of Education's statement of needs and will provide a flexible and engaging learning environment for our students and the community. I'd like to briefly review the FHS Building Committee design process. After the work of 2 ad hoc committees, the Community Survey Committee and the FHS Facility and Financial Committee was complete, the FHS Building Committee was established by the Town Council in March 2019. The committee includes community members, elected officials, town staff, and school administrators. Recommendations gathered from the 2 ad hoc committees were incorporated into the Building Committee's charge. The FHS Building Committee's work was divided into 2 phases. Phase 1, the conceptual options phase, where the FHS Building Committee evaluated conceptual design options from multiple architects to provide the Town Council with the information they needed to set the net municipal project cost range and the overall project scope. Phase 2 was the preliminary plan phase. Here, the FHS Building Committee's work centered around designing a comprehensive solution to address the Board of Education's statement of needs that fell within that net municipal project cost range and overall project scope set by the Town Council. While the committee was on a brief pause due to the economic conditions and uncertainties from COVID-19, we continued our monthly meetings to finalize our schematic design, work collaboratively with the Town Council and Board of Education, and continued to stay focused and connected to the Farmington community. The FHS Building Committee completed a thorough community education and communication campaign, which included summary and topic-specific presentations, newsletters, and updated website information. Over the past 2.5 years, dedicated residents have contributed countless hours to deliver the best solution to address the Board of Education's statement of needs. The new high school will provide a flexible and engaging learning environment for our students and the community. This comprehensive new high school design has been achieved through the collaborative efforts of all stakeholders and focusing on the critical components of any project: strategy, people, process, and communication. We developed an overall strategy to meet as many of the items included in the Board of Education Statement of Needs as possible, while staying within that net municipal project range and, very important, eliminating educational disruption during construction. Our strategy worked and we delivered. This design addresses local, state, and federal requirements, consolidation of space, building systems, site improvements, and benefits to the community, while considering fit and feel for the town of Farmington. Most importantly, this design meets the educational programming and safety needs for our students now and in the future. Our goal was to bring the right people together to design a comprehensive solution that included feedback from our community and neighbors. We hired the right professionals and continually engaged with our district, town, and community partners. We adhered to a thorough design and review process that included evaluation of cost versus benefit. Even through the required project pause caused by COVID-19, the committee continued to evaluate industry, design, and state legislative changes in order to adjust project requirements or the recommended solution. Most importantly, our work is nothing if it is not heard and understood by the community we serve. The FHSBC has focused on transparent and timely communication throughout, and we remain committed to providing the information the Farmington community needs regarding this project. And with that, I think I'll hand it right back over to Ken.
Thank you very much. Again, for the record, Ken Slater. One thing I'd like to point out, and I want to thank everyone for the presentation, but particularly Assistant Superintendent Wynn had to jump in at the last moment. Superintendent Kreider was going to make the presentation, but coincidentally, with one of the, I think, the essential and critical reasons that a variance is warranted, there was a safety issue that has come up, and there's an open forum tonight that the superintendent is attending. And that's an issue that is well addressed in this design where they use the stacking. So you heard and hopefully were persuaded by the importance of that kind of a structure, as well as the fact that there is a relatively small portion of the structure that is above the minimum height requirement. And as I indicated in the opening, that if you are persuaded that that is what's necessary to put a modernized high school on this campus, and I certainly was, you need a variance anywhere in the community. Now, one of the important parts of demonstrating a variance is a relatively recent case that had to do with the non-conforming use of a cottage along Long Island Sound. It was a non-conforming structure. It was damaged and it was going to be rebuilt, and it needed variances to comply to deal with modern requirements regarding flood elevations and such. And the court determined that there really, as long as he demonstrated two essential elements, which was that the variances do not substantially affect the comprehensive zoning plan. What does that mean? Well, it's a concept where in the community, you're not really going to disrupt what is the established zoning scheme. And this is a residential zone, but it is established campus of the high school next to the municipal center. And I don't think anyone is arguing, and certainly the Plan of Conservation and Development does not, which is a guiding document of how the zoning scheme should work, does not suggest that this is an inappropriate place for these municipal uses. So I think it's a given that this is the appropriate location for the high school. And it's also a given that the school has to have the opportunity to modernize over time, like any other use. This school has, over its history, done that, but it's done it in a way that no longer serves modern legal requirements as well as educational requirements. So that's the first factor for a variance. And the second, that there has to be some kind of hardship that would be affected by the property owner, but that would be satisfied by a variance that would not impact the overall purposes of the zoning plan. So again, having this kind of a structure will require a variance wherever it is in the town, but it does not it does not have any kind of an adverse impact on the general zoning scheme. There really is no way that the town would be able to build that kind of high school without a variance. And that's what the Zoning Board of Appeals is established to do, is to provide some flexibility. And in this 2019 Supreme Court case calls it elasticity. That is what is the lifeblood of what a Zoning Board of Appeals can do. And we ask that you use that authority and grant the variance that is, will allow a very exciting project to go forward in the town. And with that, would certainly entertain and allow our various presenters to answer any questions the board might have.
Attorney Slater, before I turn it to the commissioners to ask questions, could you just articulate or have one of the team articulate why this particular design was necessary in terms of, I understand why in general we need to modernize, but why it was necessary to make it 3 stories, to make it above the 35 feet, again, to show the hardship based on the topography, whether it was considered to have it be only 2 stories, but wider, and why that was rejected, if that was considered, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, this is Richard Sipek again for the record. I'd be happy to address that. So it is, it's a given in planning that the higher you can build, the less space you can require on the site. I think when you saw the site plan, perhaps I can ask if we can go back to the site plan for a second. We are required to design a facility on an existing site that has a limited geography. I mean, it's 50 acres. On the other hand, it's not really usable 50 acres for building anywhere. We have in the lower left corner of this diagram, again, a very high elevation with a sloping topography leading up to it. So we cannot build there. It's just not practical. And then we have a certain amount of resources that we're trying to preserve. We're trying to be conservative in how much disruption we have. So we have a football field, which is in fine condition. We don't want to disrupt that. We saved a portion of the existing building, the 900 wing. We certainly can reuse that for the program of the central offices. And then we have the 1928 building, which is of great sentimental value. And so we wanted to save that. So that leaves only a small portion of the existing site where we can place the building. Now, if you can visualize going to a 2-story configuration, then that footprint that's for the classrooms would have to be removed from that area and placed on the ground. And that would compromise the amount of parking that we could provide, as well as the circulation and buffer areas that we think are important. So once we take all of that into account, going vertically upwards makes the most sense. It also is the most economical way we could build. It reduces the amount of roof area, it reduces the amount of foundation area. And it also makes it extremely energy efficient because we have less surface area that leaks energy. So for those reasons, we think that this is the most effective way to build the square footage that's required for this building. I should point out also that this is what we have been indicating throughout the entire process that Meg Guerrera described, the competition of different architects competing for this project, and then in public presentations throughout the course of the design, through the schematic design. It's the same that was represented and then supported by members of the community in the referendum.
Right. I'll turn it over to the commissioners. Commissioner Callahan, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you for the presentation.
Commissioner Llewellyn,
No, not at this time.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yeah, I don't have
Commissioner-
any questions. Fine. Thank you for the presentation.
Commissioner Nadeem,
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you for the presentation as well.
Commissioner Marsh?
Yes, I think it's a wonderful plan. I'm very impressed. My daughter went to Farmington High School, and this is such an improvement. And it just fits in with the area that the high school has. So I think it's great.
Okay. Commissioner Brockelman, any questions? Commissioner Brockelman? Is he still on? Is he muted?
He's probably unmuting.
Yep, no questions.
All right, and Commissioner Walsh?
No questions. Thank you for the presentation as well.
Okay, so at this time, we would open it up to the public. I'm going to turn it over to staff. There is a hand-raising function on this call, on this Zoom meeting, and I don't know if anyone has already indicated intention to speak, but I will just remind whoever is going to speak that you state your name, spell your name if necessary, and then please give your address for the record. And I'll have staff, which is controlling the remote meeting, to make the necessary inquiry at this time.
Commissioner, our chair, do you want to go over the written correspondence after this or before?
Well, I don't know how many people want to speak, so let's we'll go over the written correspondence. Obviously, if someone submitted something in writing, I'll say you don't have to also speak. Don't feel the need to also say on the record what you wrote in your letter. So let's do the public first. I see there's a lot of participants. I don't know how many of them wish to speak. So let's start with them. I think it would be better. Don't you agree?
Yep. First one we have is a Sam Reisner. All right, Sam, I'm going to ask you to unmute. You could unmute yourself.
Yes, hi, Sam Reisner, 41 Main Street. And I just wanted to note the plan for the new building. It takes extensive measures to minimize the impact for neighbors. The berm with trees on the eastern side where the closest neighbors are. And I think they've done a really good job at trying to protect the neighbors as much as possible. And also just to once again underscore, the project was very well publicized, both by the building committee, which did a fantastic job, and other groups such as Comprehensive FHS, which I was involved with, to really help get the word out. And it was approved overwhelmingly by the public, including a very clear demonstration of the proposed height in a 2-to-1 margin. So that's a pretty resounding community support. And so I just want to speak in favor of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, Mr. Eisner. Next, anybody else? Mr. Sear?
Next one is Rafina Bacchus Lee.
Bacchus Lee.
Bacchus, sorry.
Hi there. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, it's Rafina Bacchus Lee, Rafeena Bacchus Lee, 3 Hamilton Way. Thank you very much to the chair and the ZBA members for the opportunity to speak tonight in favor of the town's application for a variance for the new high school. As we all know, it's taken Farmington many years and a number of attempts to get to a successful high school building referendum. As Meg Guerrero just attested, the building committee undertook an intensive 2-year-long process to make sure we had the right design, and we do. On June 3rd, the high school project was approved overwhelmingly by the public by a 2-to-1 margin, with voters fully aware of the proposed facility and its 3-story section. As Richard Sibek, the architect, just mentioned, going vertically makes the most economic and environmental sense while providing the square footage required. More importantly, this design for the new building takes extensive measures to minimize the impact to the neighbors, including the berm with which Sam just mentioned. This new building would also not be outside of what is already present. I believe the current 1928 building exceeds the maximum of 35 feet already. Your approval today allows our community to move forward with addressing a critical need, meeting our students' educational programming and space requirements with a design that voters are overwhelmingly in favor of. So please, I ask you to approve this variance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next one is Beth Kittner.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Beth Kittner. The spelling of my last name is Kintner, and I reside at 24 Farmstead Lane in Farmington. I want to give a thank you to the members of the Zoning Board of Appeals and for the work that you do on behalf of our town. I'm a member of the Board of Education, and I'm the Board of Education's liaison to the Farmington High School Building Committee. I served as a liaison on the building committee actually since 2019, first as a member of the town council, and since 2020, January 2020, as a member of the Board of Education. So I've been involved in this process for quite some time and have watched it unfold and all the work that has gone into it. And even prior to that, as a member of the community with our previous referendum. So as you've heard in the presentation, the design process for the high school building has been an extensive, thoughtful, and deliberative process that involved much collaboration with educational professionals, architects, engineers, other design and building professionals, elected officials, students, parents, and community members. So very cohesive process. The process represents a significant investment of time and effort and finances that have gotten us to this point. The design of the high school facility, which was approved by the building committee, the Board of Education, and the town council, and passed at referendum, allows for construction to take place with minimal disruption to education by not involving the current building and allowing that building to be occupied for the entire length of the construction. And that was a key priority for our committee, as well as concerned residents. We heard that loud and clear from residents, both from the previous referendum and our current plan. So it really represents the best solution to meet the needs of our students and our educators and the community as a whole. So I would ask that you look favorably upon the town's application for this variance, and I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one we have is an Emily Kalini.
Hi, this is Emily Kalini. I am at 30 High Street in Farmington, and I just wanted to reiterate some of the points that you've already heard. I am in favor of the Zoning Board of Appeals approving this variance tonight. I think the most compelling reason is the fact that the project already went to referendum and the vote was such a clear majority in favor of the project. I also believe that the town and the school district and the building committee did a great job publicizing the project. So I don't think that this height is a surprise to the town residents, and that they were given their chance to vote individually on it. And we all know what that outcome was. So I think as the presentation makes clear, this was the best solution, and the town's residents support it. And, you know, the various town council boards and committees, Board of Ed and such, are all in support of the project. And so I hope tonight that this commission is able to vote in favor of the variance. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We have one more, and we have Ned Stachin. Oh. Yeah, I'm trying to. Ned, if you
Ned,
can
you
hear
have to
us.
unmute if you want to speak.
Oh, they unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Gotcha, Ned.
Oh.
Now you've muted yourself again. And I'll just state for the record,
There you
as a
go.
public official yourself, you should know how to participate in these remote meetings.
I
by
should,
now.
huh? All right. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, go
All
ahead.
right, I'll try it one more time. Ned Stachin, 6 Bella Lane. I'm here to speak in favor of this application. I was a ZBA chairman in New Britain for 6 years before I came here. So I know a little bit about the hardships, and I think one of the hardships that hasn't been discussed a whole lot is trying to keep the education process going safely while all this construction is going on. And the fact that we have a stacked, tightly footprinted building as part of this is going to go a long way to making sure that the kids that are going to school, my kids, while the construction of the new building is going on. I think it's very important that we try and keep this footprint small. I think it's the most efficient as we talked about, and I think it's a very attractive building. And it was overwhelmingly approved, and I think that I'm also a civil engineer, and I think the design is very well thought out, and I like the flow of the building, and I just think that the variance is very minor in regards to the small amount of roof area that is requiring the variance, and it really would, I think, be a big asset to the town to get this built as it was designed. So I'm supportive of the variance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ned. We have two more. We have Jessica Lister.
Hello, my name is Jessica Lister, Lister. I live at 8 Candlewood Lane. That is in the neighborhood, in the community surrounding the high school. I want to thank everyone on the Zoning Board of Appeals for your hard work and express our household's full support of the variance. We hope that you will vote to approve it. We're excited to continue everyone's careful and deliberate work to offer students in the community the best option for education, for the town, for our near and hopefully distant future for years and years to come. And as we know from the referendum vote, that the town completely supports this. So thank you so much. Let's keep going.
All right, thank you. And we have one more from Peter Jones. Peter, if you could there we go.
Got it now. Peter Jones, 21 Briarwood Road, Farmington. I'm convinced that anything anyone says or does tonight will have no influence on this board, but I'll say this anyway. A zoning board's job is to protect the resident taxpayers from overbuilding, overcrowding, and changing the characteristics of existing neighborhoods. By allowing a 250,000 square foot, 47 foot tall building, 150 feet from the top of a peaceful cul-de-sac and the other two homes on Crestwood Circle, you failed to do your jobs. By allowing this outrageous intrusion on a 60-year-old existing neighborhood is an insult and an injustice to its residents. Vote this down tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I don't show any other hands raised, so if anyone else wants to speak, please use the Zoom raise your hand function.
And I'll note, Mr. Seer, that when I had originally noted that first we would have people who voted in favor, but now if people just want to ask questions up through the board or just want to comment opposed to an opposition, this would be their time to speak. And so I'll just also indicate there was a question that had been raised in a chat, which seems to still be, it's still there. If you want to just read for the record what the question was that was raised, if the person wants to speak, they can speak. But I just want to make sure everyone has a fair chance to express their view.
Yeah, we'd prefer if anyone that has written a comment in the chat to please raise your hand and then you can address the commission so that it's captured for the record. The items written in the chat feature are not captured for the legal record for the meeting.
Anyone has
anyone else want to speak?
Yay
Because
or nay, just raise your hand using the Zoom function. Oh, we got one. Heidi Della Bianca.
Hi, this is actually Greg Della Bianca, Heidi's husband. I'd just like to reiterate what Peter just said.
Could you give your address, please, and spell your last name?
Della Bianca, Dellabianca, 19 Briarwood Road. Never was this totally transparent. If it was transparent, we would have known about this 47-foot rule as opposed to 33 before the referendum was taken. I don't see how, like now at the end of my street, I'm going to be looking at a 4-story building instead of a tree line, which I currently have. I'm just not in favor for this. The building is in the wrong spot. I thank you to the committee, but I think you failed the town because you did not do your due diligence. Please vote this down tonight. Thank you.
All right.
Anyone else raising their hand? If not,
I don't have any other.
We'll go to
ones.
correspondence.
Okay. We had 3 correspondences. One, I think you sent, the one I sent this morning, which was from 12 Candlewood in favor. She's writing in support of the application. Next one.
We make that part of the record. Next.
Next one we have, I got my glasses on, sorry. It's from Chris Fagan in favor of the project as well. All right. And the third one is from Bridget Moss at 24 Basswood, and she's also in favor of the.
You just leave that one up for 1 second. I want to just look at it real quickly. Thank you.
Anybody else want to look at any of these?
No.
And I'll ask if any of the commissioners want to ask questions of any of the speakers. This would be their time. I'll just run quickly through the list of commissioners. Commissioner Callahan?
No question for any of the speakers.
Commissioner Llewellyn?
No question for speakers.
Commissioner Phillips?
I do not have any questions.
Commissioner Nadeem?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Marsh?
No.
Commissioner Brockelman? Commissioner Brockelman?
Down them right now. Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
sorry about that. I was on mute. One quick question. It was brought up before, what is the current height or highest point of the current high school? I would assume that the architect could answer that.
Yes, excuse me. Yes, for the record, this is Richard Sipek again. Yes, the existing 1928 building is the same height as the proposed 3-story portion of this new building.
Okay, so it would not be anything higher than what's already on the site now.
Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Walsh?
No questions.
Right, and I have no other questions. So if there is no other public comment, then we will close the public portion of the hearing. We'll go immediately to entertaining a motion and vote. So in deliberation. So at this time, we will close the public comment portion, and then I'm going to ask for a motion regarding this application.
Rob Phillips, I'll make the motion to approve.
Can you be more? Okay. Can you be more specific? That are you specifically moving that the board approve the application for variance to maximum building height from the zoning regulations of 35 feet to up to 47 feet for the new high school at 10 Monteith Drive in an R40 zone? Is that your motion?
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. I figured we would discuss it during the discussion session, but yes, that's correct.
All right. And is there a second to the specific articulated motion?
This is Sarah again. I second that.
Okay. Discussion will go in order again. And this time during the discussion, unfortunately, Mr. Brockelman and Mr. Walsh cannot participate. So Mr. Callahan, any comment?
Yes, I'm in favor of the application, and I understand the misgivings and the opposition of the neighbors to, I guess, what would be the neighborhood in the immediate west. But although I do take into consideration those objections, they sound to me like they are objections that are more based on where the building is going rather than what the height of the building will be. I think it's a more location issue that is detached from the height issue. And it was a helpful clarification too, that the proposed new building would not be any higher overall than the existing high school, at least the 1928 portion of it.
Mr. Llewellyn? Commissioner Llewellyn?
Yeah, I'm a little, having a hard time in both directions. I see the point of the people who have lived close, but I see the overall project has been approved by the town voters, and that's who we represent here is the voters. I would have to be in favor of the program based on that. You know, I would agree.
Okay. Commissioner Phillips, it's your motion.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Despite the fact that the voters obviously approved this this proposal, this project at a referendum, I'll just try to focus on the variance hardship. I think in this case, the proposed building, the entire roof is not going to be at that height that the variance is being requested for. It's only a small percentage relatively of that roof line. I also believe that it's consistent with the existing building on the site that's been there for, well, the old section's been there for what, almost 100 years. It's going to be no greater in height than that building as well. I think given the, not the topography, but the site layout and the challenges and the logistics behind constructing a new building while keeping the existing building in operation makes it very difficult to really locate it in any other area. So with all that said, I think there's enough justification here that it's not inconsistent with the harmony of the neighborhood in the general area, especially considering it's a large site and it's uniquely situated to receive a variance approval such as this.
Commissioner Nadeem?
Most of the comments have been made by my fellow commission members. I am in favor of this variance. I think that as we've seen from the plan, the height, the 47 feet is going to be a very small percentage of the building. I believe that there is sufficient hardships to justify the variance. So for those reasons and the other ones outlined by my fellow members, I am in support of this.
Commissioner Marsh? Commissioner Marsh?
Yes.
Any comment?
Sometimes we have to consider what we're doing for our children. And this new high school is going to make Farmington a much better high school than it already is. So I'm very much in favor.
And as chair, I go last, and I have to agree with what the other commissioners said, and I have to, and some of my comments I'm taking into consideration what Mr. Della Bianca and what Mr. I think his name is Jones said. I also thought about, well, why does it need to be 3 stories? And that's why I asked about 2 stories. But when one looks at that site now and what a sprawl that school is, I had a daughter that went to that high school. It took, I don't remember what the time is, but it took maybe 10 minutes to get from one end to the other. And that nobody builds buildings like that, inefficient, 1-story, sprawled over a huge area, taking up space, having students crowded in narrow hallways, students that have disabilities, having difficulty with backpacks, running to class and then bumping into people or going into these common corridor areas. I note, more importantly, that only 2% of this building is going to be at this almost 47-foot height. And it's basically just looks like a couple of triangular pyramid-shaped skylights at one portion, and only 25% is going to even exceed the 35-foot requirement, and only by 5 feet. I hear that most of the flat roof that's above the 25% is only going to be at 40 feet. So we're only talking about a 5-foot variance for almost all of this new construction. I think the topography of the site also makes clear that there's very few places this property, this building could be moved. And I believe it was Mr. Slater who noted, and I take that as maybe the most significant hardship, is that we're building a new high school on a piece of property where the old high school is going to continue to operate for the benefit of the students in the interim, which means there is limited places to put a brand new school while you're continuing to educate all of the public high school students in the town of Farmington. So I will also commend both the building committee and the architects and the entire presentation. It convinced me, and I realize there will always be some people in the neighborhood that won't be convinced by it, but I believe that there has been a substantial showing of hardship based on the things that have been said, and therefore I will also support this application. Having said that, I will now call for the roll call vote, and I'm going to ask either Mr. Seer or someone else from the staff to call the roll, please.
All right. Commissioner Callahan,
Aye.
in favor or?
Aye, in favor.
Oh, okay. Ronald Llewellyn,
Aye.
Sarah Nadeem,
Aye.
Robert Phillips,
On the motion to approve, aye.
and Mr. Schoenhorn.
I think you should call Mr. Marsh as well first.
call-
I'm the chair, so I go
Right.
last.
Terry Marsh,
Yes, very much.
and John Schoenhorn.
Aye.
All
Right,
right.
so as I understand it, the vote is unanimous and the variance is approved. And I guess the town still has to go before another board or two, but
Thank you so much.
so that will conclude that matter. We'll now move on to new business. And the new business, I assume everyone currently on the board, including the alternates, has reviewed the approved the minutes, I'm sorry, the schedule for the 2022 with the notation that there was an error in the original. It said scheduled 2021, but it was resent out as 2022. So this one is please ignore what's up at the top there. So just cross
Ignore
out.
that man behind the curtain.
Yes.
Huh? No.
So I understand, I note that in
Different dates,
in this version, there is an asterisk about March 14th, perhaps being kind of in a conflict with budget workshop, which would take place in the town council chambers. But it's also my understanding that by law, we can continue to meet remotely, at least until April. Is that correct, Mr. C?
Yes, that is.
So that if there is a conflict with room space, the commission will be able to still meet without interfering with that
That's
meeting, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so do I hear a motion with regard to the schedule for 2022?
I move to approve the proposed schedule of ZBA meetings for 2022.
Second.
Right, all in favor? I think we should do a roll. Well, all in favor, let's just do a voice call here.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. Any opposed? All right. So it passes. Moving on to the minutes from October. Does anyone wish to either make a motion or comment, make any amendments to those meetings, to those minutes, I mean? All right. We hear a motion regarding the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of the zoning board of appeals meeting of
October 18th.
October 18th, 2021.
Is there a second?
Motion.
Sarah, you second it?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Before we adjourn, I'll just say to those members that are leaving our board, it's been a pleasure serving with you. Starting in January, there'll be some new members. and several old members. So a lot of us will still be around, but I wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and we'll be seeing each other around town. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. And I also wanted to thank staff for all their hard work throughout this last year, with all the difficulties with COVID and having to plan and put on these meetings, many of which were remote. So I congratulate them and thank them. Well, yeah, and Shannon but also Sandy. And yeah,
Oh,
Bruce,
I apologize.
you did a good job.
Idiot now.
You did a good job, Bruce.
All
All right.
Great effort. Thank you. Thank you all. Have a great holiday.
All right.
Great holiday.
All right. Can we didn't have our
Everybody.
motion to adjourn yet. Where's the
I'll
motion?
make a motion to adjourn, and I just want to say thank you to staff as well. Thank you to everybody. It's been a pleasure working with you for 4 years, and good luck to those that are continuing on ZBA. And happy holidays.
And good luck to you as well, Rob. We'll
All
be
right.
seeing you around. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Carrie Callahan, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We stand adjourned. Take care.